coming at you. Good Tuesday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Matthew, how you doing? Hopefully you had a good holiday weekend, man.
Had a very relaxing holiday weekend. I actually kind of treated it like the all-star break, like at hockey or baseball, where you get a couple days off, and I took all the reels off of my rods. I cleaned all my rods, went through each one, lubed, cleaned every single reel, went through all my boxes. You actually gave me some new boxes a couple weeks ago. Changed out everything. I probably spent 40 hours in 3 days and got everything dialed in for the push in the fall with all the derbies coming up. So a productive weekend. Little bit of horse barrel racing mixed in there, of course, but for the most part, relaxing. What did you do?
Dude, I caught up. I actually watched some tennis this weekend. Are you a tennis fan?
I've been watching a lot of tennis, too. I was watching, like, the Coco Golf doubles with the 17-year-old, and then I watched the number one seed in the women's fall. Yeah, I did the same thing. I've been watching it, and then, obviously, a lot of football.
Yeah, football kicking off, obviously, with us being University of Oklahoma graduates. It was cool to see what Jalen Hurts did against Houston. A lot of optimism. But, we still gave up 30-plus points. The defense looked a little bit better, but we'll have to see as the season progresses. Hey, just be thankful we're not Tennessee fans.
Yeah, what the hell are you drinking there? Is that like a flavorless spritzer?
Bubbly.
What is it?
Bubbly. Yeah, peach flavored. Bubbly.
Peach flavored bubbly.
Yeah, no calories, no nothing, basically. It's just carbonated water. Yeah, you got some hardware behind you, man.
Yeah, Edwin's hardware. They didn't even have to ship the thing. They could have just kept it in Oklahoma after they made it, and he could have just gone and picked it up in Oklahoma City for Big Dave's shop.
Yeah, we have a really good show today, a special show. You are on location in Tulsa, and Edwin Evers will be joining us here in about 5 minutes to talk about his remarkable season. And Matthew, we talked a little bit about it last week, but what he accomplished and what he did was one of the greatest seasons in the history of professional bass fishing.
Yeah, very impressive. It's hard to put into context with the new format, but if you just take format and everything out of it and just go strictly on titles and top tens, it ranks up there with the best seasons in the 50 years of tournament bass fishing.
Yeah.
We are at Shoreline Boat and RV, by the way. Big thanks to Brock. We're actually in Brock's office. Just hanging out in the office.
You just took it over, man.
One of those General Tire commercials that they like to film.
You just took it over.
Yeah, totally took it over.
All right. I want to let everybody know this week, a jam-packed week with shows. We're going to have Edwin on today, tomorrow. A much anticipated live via Skype from Lake Gunnersville. We're going to have Boyd Duckett on, and he's kind of going to give his thoughts on the first season of the BPT. And then on Thursday, we're going to have Justin Lucas on. And then were you able to get our second guest? I haven't worked on that at all.
No, I didn't try to call him over the holiday weekend. I'll give him a shout after the show.
Okay, so maybe a second guest on Thursday, but Duckett tomorrow, Justin Lucas on Thursday, so another great week here on BTL. All right, Matthew, I kind of took a look at some of the early stats on Edwin, and I know you're a stat guy, and I know you like crunching numbers, but if you go back and you look at Edwin's numbers in the beginning, it was very, very interesting to see where he is today, see where he's been. But the way that he started out, it was pretty impressive that he actually progressed and got to the point that he's at today. And I think there isn't anybody out there that can deny that he is absolutely a superstar in this game.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's like pretty much won everything, so that's how you get to be a superstar. You win everything.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Whatever. All
right, and I want to ask him when we get him on here in about 5 minutes. Interesting comments from other anglers. I don't know if you read the story that was on the Major League Fishing website, but to hear the comments from Mark Davis and also Kevin Van Dam about Edwin's season, I want to know what his thoughts are. I don't even know if he's read that story yet because I think it just came out this morning, but very, very inspiring comments by Mark Davis and Kevin Van Dam about Edwin's season.
I mean, if you're going to have two guys say nice stuff about you, that's probably two of the good ones to be saying it.
Yeah. All right, so you got all your stuff dialed in. You are ready to go. Anything else you need to do, or have you done all your homework for what is coming up here in October for you?
I'm just rolling with it, Mark. Try to do something every day.
All right, here's the other thing that I want to mention, and I want some feedback from you on this and really some feedback on the fans. You're going to be gone a lot in the month of October, and I'm going to be scrambling trying to get people to pinch hit for you during the month of October. Do you think it might be a cool idea to actually have one of our fans actually host the show one day while you're gone?
I mean, it depends on what fan you pick there, Mark.
Well,
I mean, I'm thinking of a couple that like to give us constructive criticism, and I think that you'd be off there in 15 minutes if you had them.
No,
but yeah, I mean, as a whole, we've got a really educated fan base. I mean, we got guys sending us Excel spreadsheets and 2,000-word articles about everything. So, I mean, I won't be there, so I'd watch it.
Well, I've got to come up with a way. We're going to do this over the next 2 or 3 weeks. I've got to come up with a way for someone to submit like a video or why they would want to host BTL or something like that. And I'm seriously considering doing that. And I want to get it dialed in this week to see if maybe the video concept or sending in a video might be the best way to do it. I don't know. I need you to think about that.
That'll work. Edwin's over here going through all of Brock's files. We should probably take a break and get him on.
Files?
Yeah, he's sitting at Brock's office. At his desk? What do they call that? That big head guy in charge? What? Yeah, the head cheese. Because we're in like the studio with the abstract art. I mean, if you know Brock, you know how funny it is.
Yeah, what is that? It looks like it's graph.
A piece of it's either that or a 12-year-old rainbow trout mount in the background. So we went with the abstract art here at Shoreline.
All right, very nice. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with Edwin. Everybody, stay tuned.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
Gamakatsu, the G Finesse series.
In my opinion, the G Finesse series is the only lineup of hooks you need for any fishing you do.
But I know a lot of guys haven't used this hook yet. The G Finesse series has the nano coat on the hooks. The nano coating makes the hooks sharper, smoother for a better hookup ratio. 20% stronger than black nickel. Wow, that is incredible. That's a lot of strength.
My Gamakatsu G Finesse series, perfect finesse fishing for you.
Check out the G Finesse series of hooks by Gamakatsu. guys, Gerald Swindle, Sunline Pro Staff. If you're a flipper, a slackline hook setter, you're really putting a lot of impact into your hook set, look for the shooter. It comes off the smooth, really smooth. Like when you're flipping, it is smooth. If you're gonna be drop shotting and cranking, sniper's the deal, man. It seems like it's a little bit less likely, like on a sharp hook set, it don't seem like it likes it as much. But for coming off the spool on spinning rod, leaders, cranking, like if I'm gonna throw a big plug at Gunnersville, I've still got strong tensile strength. It's not gonna give out on me, but yet the line's thin enough it'll get down. So to me, shooter takes a hook set, snipers for everything else. So if you're gonna slack line them, go shooter.
The name SPRO says it all. SPRO stands for Sports Professionals. When you look at the pro staff that SPRO has brought on board over the past 15 years, it's been pretty incredible. I mean, one got it just then. From the development of the rock crawler to the McStick, from the Fat Papa to the Little John series, when you tie a SPRO bait on, you know it's been designed by a professional to get the job done.
Blue Water by TH Marine, offering LED lighting solutions for your boat, trailer, truck, ATV, and so much more. Engineered and built to be rugged with waterproof and submersible options. Designed for easy installation, Blue Water is available in a variety of colors and styles. All backed by a limited lifetime warranty. Blue Water by TH Marine.
At Duckett Fishing, we have assembled the top pros in the country to help us design rods to give you a competitive advantage. Castability, strength, durability, action, sensitivity, weight and balance, and consistency. Combine that with the best warranty in the industry, and you have rods that are pro-driven.
Duckett Fishing, pro-driven.
Hey guys, Cliff Perch here with AFCO. I've got the new Camo Hooded Reaper. It's going to be a great thing both for fishing and hunting this fall. I can tell you a couple of the features about it. Got the face mask like all the Reapers do, vented in front. It's got the fleece on the inside, so it's really comfortable. It's super warm. When you come down to the pocket, it's got this little snap system called Block Tapey, and it's silent. You know, it doesn't make that sound that other snaps and other systems that hook it together make. Great for hunting, and it's going to keep that stuff in your pocket.
I got my power pole down, stuck in the mud in the bottom of the lake, sitting so still in the wind and the waves, could even be a hurricane. I got my power pole down.
All right, we are back, kicking off the week with a very special show and a very special guest. We welcome.
Oh, yeah, that's a chair wiggle in there.
You all right there, Matthew?
Yeah, Edwin's good. He's farting over there.
Jeez. Edwin, how you doing, man?
Good, how are you?
Jeez, man.
I'm really not. He looked at me like I was. I'm moving around in his chair and just making all kinds of noises.
All right, very cool, man. We greatly appreciate, I know the fans do, a lot of stuff on the instant feedback already. Appreciate you taking time to make this show happen.
He didn't know he was on the air.
What
I
happened?
didn't know we're on air yet.
Oh.
I wouldn't have said that, but he keeps looking at me like every time I move, this chair squeaks.
Off to a great start.
Jeez. All right, Edwin. Besides the mischief that's taking place right now, it has to have been just a whirlwind.
You know what's happening here.
What's going on?
Just dealing with him.
Oh, I know, man. I deal with it for I don't know how many years now. So, yes, I know exactly what you're going through. All right, man. A crazy whirlwind last couple of weeks for you. It's just got to be mesmerizing what you've done this season and what the last couple of weeks have been like.
It has flown by. Somebody's got to pinch me over it because I'm telling you, it just seems like yesterday we're all signing up to go start a brand new league, and here we are. And I remember how nervous I was about it, and telling my wife that it'll be a miracle if you can make the championship and make maybe 1 cup event or 2 cup events. I think a guy would have a phenomenal year with those 79 other guys that have been put on that roster. It's the strongest field ever assembled, and to have the success I had this year, I just can't believe it.
All right. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the story that was on the Major League Fishing website where Mark Davis and Kevin Van Dam have actually commented on your season and everything that you accomplished this year. And I want to read a quote real quick from Mark Davis. And this is what he said: "In my 30-something years in business, I've watched guys experience success and kind of get into what is described as the zone. That Edwin is now in. You are in the zone. He is in the zone. But once they know how to climb that mountain, they almost talk themselves out of climbing it again," Davis said. "From my personal experience, I can tell you there is a price to pay to get to the top of the mountain, and there is a price to pay to stay at the top of the mountain." What do you think about that?
Mark is like, you can go back and look in any first article anybody ever asked me. Mark was one of those guys, and Kevin both, that I truly looked up to from the very, very, very beginning. Mark was always my most favorite angler, and just humbling for him to say something like that. But that's quite a quote. That's a deep one. You'd have to think about it a long time.
It's basically what he's saying is it's hard to stay. It's hard to stay there once you've been there. Is that what he's saying, Mark?
Well, it's hard to get there at the top, and then once you get there, you have to work even harder to stay on top of the mountain.
Yeah, it's no.
But it always seems like you've always been like ridiculously motivated. You find something, like, how do you stay so? You're like just naturally competitive, or do you like pick something and there's some guys that Reggie Miller, who got pissed at Spike Lee in the playoffs. Have you seen that on ESPN? Mm-hmm. And he channeled all of his energy towards that. You seem like a guy who would maybe get into and channel and say, I'm going to beat this guy no matter what.
I am pretty competitive, I've been told. Just in the family, my wife is super competitive, and that's probably my biggest driving factor. I'm very, very competitive, and I want to be successful and succeed. And I love all those guys off the water, but I sure want to beat them all when I'm on the water.
Edwin, how tough was it to balance this year on the water with everything that you had going off the water with the formation and your involvement and the commitments that you have from your sponsors?
I don't want to even attempt to say that I had anything to do with, the formation of the league or any of that stuff. For me, my biggest challenge this year was dealing with stuff at the house, with the tornado, and had a few other things going on around the house that was the hardest year I've ever had, just to be on the road and have so many different things happening at home. Was horrible. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
And for people who don't know, you are living out of a fifth wheeler right now. You had a tornado that, it flattened your house. You have nothing.
It didn't completely flatten it. It took the roof off. Took 2/3 of the roof off, and then it rained 5 inches. And the very next week, it stormed again, took all the tarps off, and then it did it again. They re-tarped that house 4 or 5 times, and it would rain 4 to 5 inches every time. So everything in that house it just had standing water in it. It was I don't want to say it was horrible. Everything's great, family-wise, but yeah, our house, it was pretty wet.
It's not like you just went home, put your boat back in the garage and then went into the house. I mean, you had a lot of stuff.
Oh, like it's funny because like even the shop, you talk about putting the boat in the shop. It blew like I had a wall of Berkeley baits, and my niece's husband, Brendan, he's been finding Berkeley baits miles away out in the cow pastures. I mean, he's got tubs of them, and it's pretty funny. There's stuff that literally a long ways away. It just blew everything out of the shop. Even took part of the roof off of the shop, but we're all good.
All right, when you look back at your experience and everything that you've done career-wise, going to this format, even though you had participated in events that did have the Major League Fishing format, from your game standpoint and from the way that you attacked each event, what did you really focus on? Did you change your style, or was it totally adapting to what the conditions were calling for to be able to accomplish what you did?
I think for me it was adapting, and I think back and I look at the season. Let's take Toho. The first day I was way down in the standings. There's 40 guys competing, so I think I was 25th to 30th, and started on those fish the next day, and had a couple bites down in the bottom lake. And I remember me and Andy both locked through, and we're both like in 39th place. And I think it was just making quick decisions throughout the year. The same thing at Chickamauga. I was in like 39th place at the end of the first period, and I'm like, man, I got to generate some bites. And I made really, really quick decisions. I didn't, a lot of times in the past, you might try to think things will develop as the day goes on, and you really only need 5 bites by the end of the day to be successful in a 5-fish deal. In this deal, you can't wait on those 5 bites to develop. You have to get bites from the start to the finish, and that's the biggest difference. And for me, that was just, I think, making super quick decisions and never doubting them.
Going into the year, and you can go back and you can watch the replay on Bass Talk Live, it became apparent to me early on that I thought a bladed jig and a wacky worm would be massive baits in this season. I mean, I had a 10-minute tangent about how a bladed jig was the perfect Major League Fishing format bait. And as it turns out,
you were right. You wanted me to say it? You were right. It was a good bait.
I just said a bladed jig was very instrumental in your win on Conroe.
Mm-hmm. Caught him at Kissimmee on it.
Saw what happened in a 26-minute span there on the pool of the Mississippi River. Mm-hmm. Did you know that going into it? Was that something that developed as the year went on? And why did more guys not pick up how efficient that bait is with what you guys are trying to accomplish on a daily basis?
That's a good question. I think that bladed jig would have been a bait I would have had tied on at Kissimmee, at Conroe, at the Mississippi River, no matter what tournament I was fishing. I mean, it would have been, you would have had that bait tied on fishing whatever you were fishing. I just was fortunate that I had it in the right areas, or just had some good areas that, at Conroe, had that area all to myself, was pretty awesome. Kissimmee, the same thing. When I locked down through there, and man, that stretch, I was like, man, there's not a boat in sight. I'm like, this is going to be good. So I think it's a combination of a great bait, but yet I had some areas that were, pretty dadgum good too.
Next question then. For as much as you like to throw it, when are you going to come out with one where like it's your signature series? Like you could actually like make some coin off of it. Is that in the works or?
Mum's a word on that, buddy.
Okay, I shouldn't have gone there. All right, then I got one more question about it. Obviously, you've been very successful throughout your career on the Elite Series with Bassmaster and all this. And before the last couple years, you have a history, a knowledge bank. You've been to these fisheries before. You were able to take prior success on fisheries and then translate that into Major League Fishing success. Did you find that your previous histories helped you on these lakes, or did you find that sometimes you get into the area and be like, okay, well I grinded out 18 pounds here and that is not worthwhile here in this format?
It definitely helped in a few events, but like the event that I was the most excited about, that I'm just like, sign me up, I'm going to be there the final day, was Winnebago. And I had so much prior experience on that lake. I mean, you go back and you can look at a social media post that I put. It was the absolute best day of fishing I've ever had in my life on that lake a few years prior. And I didn't catch them at all. So, I mean, it hurt me there. But, you know, yeah, definitely Mississippi River, I had prior knowledge of that backwater, and it obviously helped. The size fish that I was catching, I expected to catch nothing but big ones. You know, I had big fish in one of the previous events that I had there, you know, for the whole event out of that backwater, and had a lot of other bites just like it. And for the life of me, I don't know where those fish went, you know. But, no, it definitely helped a bunch.
Do you think a spot like you found on the Mississippi River, is that a spot that only exists on a river, or do you think that if you go through the entire schedule, there's a spot on some lake that has them grouped up just like that, regardless of where you guys go? I mean, is there a holy grail that exists on almost every fishery, or was that unique to the river?
I think if there's current or generation, there's always spots like that. And that's a neat thing about that format, because if the last place guy pulls up on that spot and I don't, in the last 40 minutes, he's going to win that event. He would have passed me like I was sitting still. I mean, because I caught more weight in that last 40 minutes than I'd caught all day. You know, I doubled my weight. And that's a neat thing about it. But I think a lot of lakes, I think we can go to Grand or Lake of the Ozarks, and if they're pulling water, there's going to be a spot that there's a bunch of fish grouped up.
How often did someone find that this year then? I mean, you found it at twice at least. You found it at Conroe.
Yeah, that's a backwater.
Yeah, but it was still, I mean, that was pretty, you found it at Conroe, you found it at the river. I mean, there's a number of guys who found it, but there's also, I mean, think about it, there's also a number of tournaments where no one found it.
Oh, yeah.
And it had to just be out there somewhere.
Oh, I always think, I mean, in my mind, I think that way. I think it's always out there. That's why I'm always looking, you know, that's why I feel like it's okay to pull that trolling motor and go looking in the middle of a tournament. Some of my best tournaments have been when I've been out there searching tournament day. It's one of the hardest things to do in tournament bass fishing.
All right, I want to go to the instant feedback. A number of people want to know, Edwin. There's like 5 posts on here about what you were thinking when the flurry was taking place that final day.
A couple things, you know. I 100% honest. I thought, man, I got it. It's over with. You know, when those fish started rolling, I'm thinking I've got it. I kept wanting an update, and poor Jim, one of the best boat officials we got, I just didn't realize he could, you know, I'm not looking behind me at what he's doing, but he can't get him in the score tracker with me. He's got to have the scales ready. So, you know, I'm thinking if I'm wanting to make sure nobody else has this going on, but I'm thinking it's going to go really good. And I was just trying to be efficient, you know, not drop one on the carpet. And then I also was thinking, man, I need to drink something and eat something, because, man, my arms were cramping up and I was hurting pretty bad. I mean, there was so much current going out of that lake, and it was so hard to reel them fish against it, because, I mean, it was – you can throw a half-ounce vibrating jig a long ways, and I was making as long a cast as I possibly could to stay off of them. It was a long ways to reel them back in. So,
but was that the first time, like, with an hour left, you, like, basically had a victory lap? I mean, you did. You said – I mean, you knew you had it. Just be honest here.
When those fish were biting,
right?
Yes.
But I mean, was that the first time you've ever like been like in the middle of it and been like, I freaking got this? Like you knew you had. Like that had to be a cool feeling. I mean, that had to be like being up 4-1 in the final minute of the Stanley Cup.
I felt really good about it. No lie. Yeah, felt really, really good about it. It's pretty exciting.
All right, back on the instant feedback. Brad in Tennessee wants to know, can you explain the best way to stay on a school of fish and even possibly recatch fish that might be a part of that school?
You know, I've heard a couple people say that. I looked at every one of those. There was not a hook hole in one of them. You know, you would think that you release one and you go back up there and catch one. There wasn't a hook hole in any of them. So there was that many fish up there. And what was really weird about it, it was that deep. I mean, and it was 150, 200 yards to 3-foot water. It was shallow, shallow, shallow. And, you know, those power poles were the deal, just sitting there holding me in that spot, you know. And on a deep school of fish, if we're over at Grand, you know, you didn't say where this guy was from, but, you know, the new trolling motors with that spot lock technology anchor mode, that's the deal. You know, as soon as you can put down that Lowrance Ghost and push that button right there and stay right there on your spot, that's how you stay on those schools. You know, in the past, our boat's always being pulled towards those schools. You get up on top of them, or you pull that school towards you, and, you know, that'll end that flurry a lot quicker.
All right, we've had this discussion on numerous shows prior to this, and a couple of people on the instant feedback also want to know, what would be your thoughts if Score Tracker updates occurred without saying the angler's name. In other words, just knowing what the weights are without saying any of the other anglers' names. What are your thoughts on that?
We talked about that in the beginning. I was probably one of the guys that first said that, but looking back, it's kind of cool because we as anglers think, well, I think I know what Jeff Creek's throwing. If I see him up on that score tracker, you think he's throwing a shaky head, or Mike McClellan throwing a jerkbait, or whatever it is. And then you go back and you watch a television show and you're 100% wrong every time, or at least I am. So I think it adds a pretty neat dimension to it, knowing exactly where your competitors stand and how much weight they have. I was pretty scared about it, thinking that people would run around and be on top of each other. But, it really didn't happen much this year that I know of. There wasn't hardly any instances where there's a guy running down the lake looking for the leader.
What would you like to see, if any, changes-wise going into 2020, Edwin?
Oh, I think there's a bunch of them. It's brand new, guys. So, but in the same sense, with it being brand new, I think some of these things need to play out just a little bit. The schedule was being built as we were fishing, and we were kind of dealt the lakes we were dealt. Just due to the timing and how quick everything got turned around. So, I'd like to see the lakes kind of, change and be different and go to the right lakes at the right time. I don't know. I think time will tell. I think time will make the changes that need to be made, but I think we got to give it a little bit of time.
You look behind. You obviously, quote unquote, got it. Like, you understand it. You understand, as they like to say, how the game is played, which I had never heard that phrase until this year. I've heard it a lot now. But as a whole, there are obviously some guys who also didn't understand how the game is played and struggled, who over the past 2 decades traditionally have not struggled. Was there a moment where it kind of clicked into your head? Now, I know you'd had some experience in this to be like, okay, this is what's important in this format. And then a second part of that question, how many of the guys do you think got it by the end of the year, and how many are still searching to kind of find that groove as to how to properly play the game?
I think there's a few guys that basically would run around and they would just pick one fish off here, run down the lake, pick one fish off here, and run down the lake and pick one fish off here. And in my experience, that anytime you're running, you're losing ground. So you do have to run around to make sure you're on fish. But I would just try to pull into an area and just catch all I could possibly catch. And a few of those guys that didn't catch them this year, everybody's pointing at Kevin. I promise you there's nothing wrong with Kevin. Kevin, in his defense, he's a big part of getting all this developed and working behind the scenes. He was pulling a lot of other things, doing a lot of other things behind the scenes that I would assume, affected his outcome of the year. You remember the last time Kevin didn't do any good, he come back with a vengeance the next year. So please quit poking the bear is all I got to say.
He was busting open bush lights on stage,
he will be fine. I assure you. There's nobody better suited for the format than him. So it's going to be a good year, and it's brand new, and it was a learning curve for a lot of people. For whatever reason, it turned out good for me. I can't honestly answer why, but I like the aspect that you're never out of it, and I feel like I work pretty hard and I fish really hard and try to be efficient. So
you develop a rivalry with Jacob Wheeler, like a competitive rivalry. You look at the numbers, you look at the top tens. You guys are fishing a lot on the same days. Mark and I have said far and away, you two were kind of head and shoulders above everyone else this year. Have you guys talked about, like, holy cow, we're both catching them again? Or is there like, I got to beat Jacob Wheeler in this one?
No, I don't. I'm not a big stat guy or look at any of that stuff. Maybe one of these days I'll sit back and look at some of that. But, Jacob, man, he's on fire. He's got the world by the tail with that whole YouTube channel, and he's a busy fella himself, and he can sure catch him.
Edwin, do you like having one event on the same lake every single day, or do you like the events where you change up the bodies of water?
I don't know. That's a tough question, because, man, I loved Conroe and going back to the same body of water. I've been on the fence of that both ways because, man, it can go good for you and it can go really bad for you. But, man, then we went to North Carolina and I was like, man, well, I can't believe we're doing this. But it was awesome because each lake was phenomenal. We would not have been able to go to North Carolina if we had to stay on the same lake because they weren't big enough for that many boats for that many days. So I think it's a neat mix. I'm fine with either. I like the aspect, I think, from a fan sitting back and looking at the sport, how guys can adjust because, those lakes were completely different. One of them was quite a bit higher. One of them was quite a bit lower. Nobody had any knowledge of it, and you really saw guys figure things out quickly. For me, I remember that morning when we went to the next lake, I'm like, man, they're not here. But I remember putting that trolling motor on high and going. And then I finally figured out a little thing and rode it to get, a decent finish there. So I'm a fan of both right now. I don't have it one way or the other. It's worked out good for me, but it's also worked out bad. I would given anything to get off Winnebago. I was so sick of not catching them there. I would have loved to have gone to Green Lake and catch them, a little bit later, or whatever it may have been. But I don't know.
Would you like to see, and do you think it would be good for the brand to have a West Coast swing?
Oh, without a doubt. 100%. I would love to go out to the Delta. There's a whole lot of little lakes out there from what I understand.
Yeah.
That probably the world's not seen, east of the border there of California. So I would love to go out there. I'm all in.
Brad in Tennessee wants to know, what is the go-to bait when it comes to catching numbers?
There's lots of them. It just depends on the time of year. A crankbait for me would be one of them that you can catch a lot of fish, sometimes two at a time. At that last event, up on the Mississippi River, my practice was phenomenal on a crankbait. I can't, that's most I've ever caught two on a crankbait in my life at the same time. Obviously, the bladed jig worked really good. Spinnerbait could be one that you can make lots of retrieves. You can catch big ones, little ones, and everything in between on a spinnerbait. Been around for years. But there's going to be a time in the day that flipping might have to be the deal, like North Carolina. So I think you just got to choose the bait for the lake.
All right, all three of us being football fans, and over the past, 5-6 years, with the development of the playoff system, we're finally having a true national champion. Matt and I have gotten to the discussion, me especially, have started, kind of this momentum. And now on the instant feedback, the fans are asking it too. Do you think we will ever get to the point where we have, if we continue to have three trails, where we have a true national bass fishing champion where all three of the champions from the Classic, from the Redcrest, and the Cup could actually compete against each other and have a true national champion? Would you like to see that?
Oh, I think the anglers would be open to it. I think a few of the leagues would have been open to it. I think we've tried that in the past, but we just can't get everybody on the same page. So, whatever reason, it's people above me and my pay grade, but it would be neat.
Your pay grade, you made like $500,000 this year.
That's on the water. That's the people in charge.
So
of these
kind of
things.
along those same lines. It's the comparison there is obvious. The final day of the Classic on Grand and what happened there, and then the final day of Redcrest here and what happened there. I'm not going to ask you which one was better or which one, but just kind of compare those. Are there any similarities between? Did you get the same feeling for both of those days?
The response over both of them have been overwhelming. Just phenomenal. Grand, it wasn't, much of it wasn't televised. Mm-hmm. So not many people actually witnessed it, as it happened. Fortunately at the Redcrest, there was cell phone reception and we had a camera in the boat and everything worked. And, just the people that have talked about it since then, it's been overwhelming. I haven't really watched how it all went down, but I've had multiple people call or text or over the dove hunt this weekend. They said it's pretty exciting to watch. So, both great moments of my career, obviously, and I wouldn't trade one for the other.
Like mentally, were you like, oh my God, it's happening again?
No,
on
I never
the
thought
final
that.
day of the championship,
no. Yeah, I guess maybe. I was just in the moment, just like Grand. I was in the moment just trying to catch every possible one I could catch, and it wasn't until the last little bit, and same thing at Grand, that I think I got it. It'd be pretty hard for Jason to pass me at Grand with that kind of stringer, and same thing for Acme but a little scarier in this format because Mississippi River, there can be stacks of them, and you can catch them like what we saw. So somebody could pass you in a hurry there.
All right, Andy in Indiana wants to know, from a physical and a mental standpoint, he wants to know if you have a routine to stay in shape, because it seems like that you're in really, really good physical condition and you're not having any, like a torn ACL or a bum elbow or whatever. Are you doing anything, man?
Left and right.
2009 was the worst year I've ever had physically. My elbows, I couldn't pick up a box of cereal, and there's a lot of fishermen right now. You can sit around and talk to them, but for whatever reason, I made it a point to get in better physical health, and my elbows, my shoulders. There's a few years there I couldn't even sleep at night because it was just painful. But man, knock on wood, everything's good. And as to answer your question, yeah, I do work pretty hard in the off season to stay in shape, and throughout the season a little bit. I'm not like by any means an Aaron Martins that runs 7 miles a day or 10 or 20, whatever he does, barefooted. But
at night,
I do try to stay a little bit healthy and eat halfway decent food. I'm not going to say I do it all the time, but I think it's important, because it's hard on your body, just that many casts and the repetitiveness of it. Just my elbows and shoulders, I can attest to it.
You still have those things on the end of your rod?
Those cushions, yeah.
Yeah. What the heck's with that?
Cushion. You set the hook 22 times in a row, you got a big old bruise right there, and it floats my rod whenever I kick one off the side.
It's like a big foam ball on the end of your rod, dude.
You can knock it all you want. Don't knock it till you try it. I don't have them. I do not have them on there. Like, I've gotten that used to them. I love those things.
You just don't. It's not like, crap, I'm getting paid $5,000 a year.
No,
I gotta put these things on the end of my rod.
Not at all. No, not at all. No,
really?
No.
Are you surprised more people don't? What, you and Shaw uses them?
Stephen Browning's got them. There's quite a feew guys that got them. I've kicked off I don't know how many rods, and everybody panics, and they're going to grab the rod. I'm like, dude, don't worry about it. It's going to be floating right there. It's a bobber. It's a cool deal, and I don't notice when I go to cast a two-hand cast. It's just one of those things that.
What are they called?
Cushions.
Cush-its?
Yep.
There you have it.
You know what I'm talking about?
He's busting me.
I mean, it looks kind of goofy, but obviously it works. Look at what's behind us right here.
The other thing that I like about it, they're color coordinated. So a lot of times I'll have two finesse jigs rigged up. I'll have one on 12 and one on 17, but they'll be on the exact same rod, and the green one's got 12, the red one's got 17, so I can pick up a rod really quick when you got all the same colored rods and reels up there. I can look down there and that's the one I want. It's just a.
Edwin,
the original reason though was so he didn't bruise his side because he sets the hook too much.
There you go. That's a good.
You skip past but that was the original reason.
They really are cushion. That's the whole premise behind it. It's a good cushion on it.
That's a good problem to have. All right, I'm curious, Edwin. As good a year that you have had, is there anything during the off season that you need to improve on, if any?
Oh man, I think. You don't ever stop improving. I need to work on my organization. I need to work on lots of things.
On the water.
On the water. Yeah.
That you're not.
Spy bait. I'm not any good with a spy bait. I don't have 2 cents worth of confidence in a spy bait. There's lots of things. There's lots of things I get better on. I've got to. I really want to learn the forward-looking live site technology and get a lot of confidence in it. That's my goal this off season, to really work on that and get up to speed with that. And
you throw swim baits at all? I didn't remember you throwing a big swim bait, like a hard swim bait.
I have in the past. Yeah, I've done real well on them back in the day. Not a hard one, soft one.
Yeah, that's what I said, like a hard one though.
No, I've got some Roman maids, and I've caught 2-pounders on them, but I've never caught
that spy bait. You're good with the jig and spoon.
I can throw a jig and spoon, yeah.
You throw a rig, a sea rig, Carolina rig ever?
Yeah, I had one rigged up at Mississippi River.
Yeah, you're pretty good at everything else. So.
Oh, whatever.
No, I'm thinking about it like.
That's something to say, like, for the young guys listening. If you go back, I used to hate a spinning rod. I wouldn't even carry one in my boat, and then I tried to make it a strong suit. I hated jerkbait fishing, but then I tried to make it a strong suit. So, like, throughout my career, I would always take whatever bait I hated or was horrible at, and I'd work on it big time and try to make it strong suits. And then I win a tournament with a spinning rod, or then I win one on a jerkbait or something like that. So I was always able to, whatever I hated, to make myself better at, I'd work on it. So.
All right, Andy in Indiana wants to know if you had to pick a partner, if Major League Fishing ever had a team event, who would that be?
Oh, it'd be Kevin, no doubt. I mean, we'd go to town.
What are you looking at, Matt?
Oh, I've got my shoreline sticker.
Jeez.
Just a nervous habit.
He's pretty nervous. All right, how heavy are those things behind you?
Oh my God!
Are they pretty heavy?
Out of one side of the truck.
Crazy heavy. You look back at some photos we had, and we holding up that points one. This one's not near as bad.
This one is horrible.
Every photo, I've got this blood vessel sticking out right in the center of my forehead, sitting there just holding. I'm just holding it, trying to smile, and this blood vessel sticking out right.
It's probably what, 50? 60?
I know the one I won at Conroe was 47. I weighed
That's heavier than 47. That's like probably 60 pounds. I mean, they're really cool. They've got like their own style to them.
It's solid. Yep.
One of them's got the name. The other one, okay. So August 25th. It's what, September 3rd right now. Does it feel like it was a week ago, or does it even feel like way long ago?
Way long ago. Yeah, they said it's pretty cool because this was each tournament. They had the 8 stars on it, and that was each stop. So kind of a cool event. Neat trophies, Dave Smith. They've got some video on Major League Fishing where they show how they made them, and it's pretty neat how they made them. This is like the stuff you sharpen your knives on. What's that?
Yeah, the stone, whatever the.
Yeah, like a whetstone.
Whetstone.
Yeah.
You gonna try to sharpen your knife?
No.
Hey, can you remember your first tournament that you ever fished, Edwin?
Like it was yesterday.
What was it?
It was a Denton Center Bass Club out of Denton, Texas, on Lake Worth. And I fished it in a one-man boat. It was called a fishing pal at the time, and you propelled it with swim fins. We had a Tracker V17 with a 40 horse on it, and I could strap that boat across the back. And I ran up the river. My dad sat there, dropped me off, read the newspaper, did whatever he did, and me and another guy were in the tournament. And I'll never forget it. He let me go down through this stretch first. I was in 7th grade, and I caught him on a buzz bait and had like 10 and a half, 11 pounds. And there's probably 40, 50, 60 boats in it. I don't really remember, but I won. And it was...
you won the first one ever?
First tournament I ever fished, I won it, yep. Pretty cool.
That is cool. What about the first tournament that you ever fished on Texoma?
First one, I remember it too really well. It was a honey hole team championship. And I'll never forget it. It was Burns Creek, the creek right there at the dam. And the wind was blowing so hard that day. In the back of that creek, there's a bunch of standing timber, and that water would just blow in the back of that creek and then would just blow back out. It was like a tide. I'd never seen anything like it, and we caught the snot out of them back there.
Did you win that one too?
No, placed pretty high, but no, it was a big tournament.
All right, Matthew, anything else?
I'm good.
That was eezy.
I got any other questions?
No hard questions from you this week, huh?
I don't know. I didn't know if you'd be willing to talk about the bladed jig or not.
There's nothing to hide. I caught him on it, yeah.
I mean, I thought it was interesting. I mean, if you look back over the history of the championships and everything, yeah, you'll have guys who have sponsors that kind of align with the organization sponsors time to time. But if you look up and down at Edwin's, at your sponsor lineup, between the General Tire, the Pure Fishing, Lowrance, Mercury, like you can just like tick off, and their Major League Fishing sponsors, which really is crazy how well your personal sponsors line up. And I mean, it's not like, long-standing sponsorships with them way before for some of them and the new ones. But
since 2000.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Since the beginning, Nitro, Bass Pro, same thing. General Tire, they came on board.
I mean, does that allow you to possibly take advantage of this championship in your season more so than anyone has been able to in the history of the sport?
Yeah, I would assume, because they're going to advertise with it, yes. But in the same sense, that's the beauty of Major League Fishing. We as angler-driven league have made sure that everybody's welcome, no matter if Andy Morgan's driving a bullet bass boat. He's welcome in here. They're all welcome to show their sponsors, showcase their sponsors. We wouldn't have the right league. They're all driving their trucks through the post-game show. So I'm just fortunate that I got a bunch of them that line up with them.
And then you're fishing a lot of events this year. You made all 4 cups. You had the Redcrest. You had 8 regular season events. You've qualified for the World Championship for next year already. Does it feel like you're fishing a lot more than you have before? I mean, you're talking 15, 16 weeks outside of all your sponsor obligations.
It's been a great year and super busy, but in the past we had the cup event, so I felt like I was fishing quite a bit, but I felt like I feel like it just started yesterday. I feel like it just was a blur how fast it went by, and I guess that's because we were so busy and fishing so much and traveling, but I just can't believe it's over. I mean, I was so nervous coming into it and so worried about it all, and now it's over. It's just
what were you
crazy.
worried about, though? Like you said that before, and
I mean, just how stiff the competition was going to be. Brand new league,
But you fished against every single one of those guys.
No. Andy Morgan,
you fished
and Michael
against them in TTBCs.
I mean, not day in, day out. I mean, you look at some of those guys; they're good. I mean, they're amazingly good. It's.
Who's the most underrated guy out there that we don't get that we don't talk to enough?
He'd be one. Andy Morgan would be one. I think that Michael Neal's a real deal. He's unbelievable. Jeff Sprague. I mean, I didn't. No offense to Jeff. It wasn't somebody that I thought of but look at what he did this year. I mean, strong year, and Stephen Browning, and just it's resurrected a lot of guys' career.
Edwin, do you think you'll still be doing this game 10 years from now?
I hope so. I've never had more fun this year than I've had in 20. So it's amazing. I was pretty much burnt out and done and figuring out something else to do, thus a pecan farm, and now I don't see an end in sight. I had that much fun and enjoyed it, and just the competition level of it, and the guys and all of it. So had a lot of fun.
All right, Matthew. Edwin, have to get your thoughts on OU's first game, man.
So excited. Jalen Hurts all the way. What a dude. Good dude. And he lit it up. It's hard to believe in my mind that he broke records his very first game. Baker Mayfield records.
I was wait, that hadn't happened before?
How in the heck can that happen? But thank you, Alabama, for Jalen Hurts. I'm glad we got him.
Pretty cool. All right, very, very excited. All right, man, here's what I like to do. In the future, when you do have some time, and I know you're real busy, I'd like to get you in studio and actually kind of open it up to where the entire show is about you and techniques, and give the fans an opportunity to really ask you anything from a technique standpoint. I think that'd be really cool if you're willing to do that.
Yep, I'd be glad to. We'll do it.
All right, Matthew, anything else?
No, we're all good. I'm gonna go splash the new Bass Cat and get a couple hours under load there. Start the break-in procedure.
All right, Edwin, man, thank you so much for taking time out and
thank everybody for watching,
showing up. Yeah, and pass along our thanks for your buddy there, Brock, for letting us do this, Matthew.
Yeah,
thanks, Brock.
You want to get in here and plug Shoreline with anything? Your Cummins Owen generator certified. You got boat and RV. You run over a T-post. You got 2 inches of mud in the bottom of your boat. They take care of your T-post. They'll make it as good as new.
No, they're not talking about my boat. They are talking about my father-in-law's boat.
I wasn't just talking about a boat in general. You're the one who called that out.
All right, great stuff. Edwin, best of luck to you, man. We will talk to you soon. Matthew, See you tomorrow in studio. Boyd Duckett live via Skype
Tulsa,
tomorrow.
Kansas City, Austin.
Yeah, thanks, Brock.
All right, Brock. Thank you, Brock. All right, we're out of here.